can be planning a meaningful farewell for your loved one. Secure your peace of mind by calling Charlotte White at 323-577-5562. That's Charlotte White at 323-577-5562. From traditional funeral services to memorials to direct cremation, pre-needs, and more. Call Charlotte White at Exquisite Family Mortuary for Southern hospitality in Southern California. That's Charlotte White at 323-577-5562. Exquisite Family Mortuary is located nearby in Inglewood, California. Exquisite Family Mortuary, where your loved one becomes our loved one.
Only thing that's saving you is the heart of a woman. Yeah. Only thing that's saving you is the heart of a woman. Yeah. Question is why I do the things I do. Answer I may never find, but I'll always choose you. Wanna give up on you, but I know I can't. I put the blame on me for giving you chance after chance.
Welcome in. You know the vibes. It's the weekend, and you were locked in with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580. Here to break down these trending topics, headlines, and stories that's got everybody talking, and a few you might miss, along with the actual details. Happy birthday, Summer Walker. Shout out to her. She's on that Breezy Bowl tour with Chris Breezy and Bryson Tiller, right? Yeah. Okay. So that's a hot ticket. I would check out that show. I really like Summer Walker's music. You know, she has a lot going on personally. That's her business. But her pen game is crazy, and I love her bops.
Don't the best music come from pain?
Pain and dysfunction, I suppose, right? You got to have an experience. So shout out to her. Listen, we are getting into fashion takeovers, courtroom mic drops, and reality TV getting roasted a little bit, plus some exclusive interviews with your faves. All that is coming your way from Versace's billion-dollar sale. It's no longer owned. Well, it was owned by one of those various companies that has been, eating up various designer houses and things like that. And now it's been sold to another designer brand for multi-billions. So we'll get into the details of that. We're also going to be talking about, Wendy Williams has been battling to remove herself from this conservatorship. And the judge told her straight to her face that her career is done. So we'll get into the details of that. And later on in the show, we're also talking with the cast of Ryan Coogler's new horror vampire flick. It's coming out April 18th, Sinners. And we'll be talking with Tiffany Black. She is starring in the new Lifetime film along with Yaya DaCosta, Not My Family, the story of Monique Smith. And this story is crazy. It's about a girl who grew up in a family, pretty abusive circumstances, never really felt like she belonged, and she discovers that she was kidnapped. So this is the story behind that, and we talked to Tiffany about that. But before we get into all of that, we got to start the night with a few conversation starters, things you need to be aware of. So like I mentioned, Prada has purchased Versace, $1.375 billion. Can you imagine? And it officially makes Versace Italian-owned again. So Donatella Versace will stay on, but only as a chief brand ambassador, i.e., probably not much power, probably not much involvement, but she might make appearances. We'll have to see if that holds to be true. But creative control moves to a new CCO from Miu Miu. So we'll have to see how that all goes down. And listen, if you're in the LA area, Coachella's going down this weekend out in the desert. It's the first weekend. Seems like it's been kind of quiet. We usually hear more buzz about it. Seems like this year it's been kind of low key. Megan Thee Stallion is going to be one of the acts taking the stage this weekend, and a few others, but I'm wondering why we haven't heard much about Coachella. I think Glorilla is performing out there as well, a couple of others. Andy?
It's lackluster now.
It's
lost
over?
its juice.
What do you think the turning point was?
To be honest with you, I think it's the talent. I just think the talent is not, or Rolling Loud is kind of taken over in a lot of ways.
I think that maybe, that main stage giving an epic performance like that, maybe those are big shoes to fill for a lot of the performers. Is it the trek to the desert isn't as sexy anymore?
I think I've heard a lot of horror stories. Well, not horror stories, but just the whole desert, the sand, and just a lot of the people. But I mean, it's a festival, so I don't know.
Well, this is weekend one. We'll have to see how it turns out. Look, when we come forward, we're going to get into Wendy Williams, what's going on with her. And, we have another Bow Wow update. And this one is a life lesson that he received from a surprising individual. We get into the details of that on the other side. You're locked in with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're riding with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580. Before the fire, Altadena was a real-life Wakanda. A thriving black oasis just 15 miles from downtown Los Angeles. 80% black residents were homeowners, building intergenerational wealth against the odds. It was a hub of black-owned businesses, churches, and cultural institutions. It stood as a symbol of black resilience and economic independence. Then, in a matter of hours, it was gone. The fire tore through homes, swallowed businesses, and left behind a painful void. But was it just an unstoppable act of nature, or was negligence involved? Did officials ignore early warning signs? Were the response efforts delayed or insufficient? What role, if any, did corporate or government failures play? Survivors are demanding answers. Don't miss our KBLA Talk 1580 Town Hall. The Eden Altadena Fire, 100 days and counting. On Wednesday, April 16th, 4 to 6 p.m. at the Robinson Park Recreation Center, 1081 North Fair Oaks in Pasadena. Join Dominic DePrima, Nee Cordelai Corte, James Farr, Tavis Smiley, and a panel of survivors, community leaders, and experts as we commemorate Day 100 since the wildfires flared up. And we discuss where we go from here. It's KBLA's Eden Altadena Fire, 100 days and counting Town Hall. Wednesday, April 16th, 4 to 6 p.m. at the Robinson Park Recreation Center in Pasadena. Light refreshments to follow. Admission is free, but sign-up is required at our KBLA1580.com website. The first 100 attendees will receive a complimentary air purifier. This is a community call to action brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and Quinn Emanuel Trial Lawyers. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
How serious is youth vaping? Irreversible lung damage serious. 1 in 10 kids vape serious, which warrants a serious conversation from a serious parental figure like yourself. Not the seriously know-it-all sports dad or the seriously smart podcaster. It requires a serious conversation that is best had by you. No, seriously, the best person to talk to your child about vaping is you. To start the conversation, visit talkaboutvaping.org. Brought to you by the American Lung Association and the Ad Council.
If you love to travel, Capital One has a rewards credit card that's perfect for you. With the Capital One Venture X card, you earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy. Plus, you get premium benefits at a collection of luxury hotels when you book on Capital One Travel. And with Venture X, you get access to over 1,000 airport lounges worldwide. Open up a world of travel possibilities with the Capital One Venture X card. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Now back to more entertainment news with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
Welcome back, and you are locked in with Jill Munroe and KBLA Talk 1580. So, of course, you know how we get down. If at any point during this conversation you want to join in, give us a call, 800-920-1580. Of course, you can always hit us up on social media, KBLA 1580. I'm personally at Stiletto Jill everywhere. And our YouTube chat is always fire, so hop in there should you feel so inclined. Now, I don't know if you were watching on Thursday night, but Netflix dropped the first episode of their live Pop the Balloon show. And one episode in, seems like social media is popping their balloons. They said that it is watered down. There are too many random added reality TV stars, and that it has lost a lot of the charm of the original YouTube series. Now, the original host and creators are involved in the show as producers, and they do make a sneak peek, not a sneak peek, a cameo in it. But the main host of the show is actress and comedian Yvonne Orji. And I have to say, obviously you have to give these things time to develop, but it had none of the je ne sais quoi, shall we say, that we've come to love about the original series. So I agree with social media on this one. Andy?
This is why it's like, would you call that like a cult classic, kind of, sort of?
I mean,
to a degree,
something like that.
It's getting there. That's why sometimes, like, it's best for things like that to not go mainstream, because you water the product down. Same thing with Versus. You should have stayed on Instagram. Now you want to go ahead and, have live performances and stuff like that, although it was great and stuff like that, but it just keep it the way it was.
I'm 50-50 with that, because this is how we get opportunities to become producers and step into the game and see things that we want to see. Lots of people, no matter who they are, when something moves from virality or online to a network, a streamer, there are other things that do have to go into it. However, I think one, and again, I totally understand why you have a celebrity comedian host. It just, something was missing. Something wasn't clicking. It didn't feel natural or organic in what I checked out.
Because they changed it all up. It's that simple. Y'all put Arlette behind the scenes, based off of what you said. That's probably a good look for her, right?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It puts her in higher positions or whatnot. Shout out to you for that. But once again, the product that we've come to love has been watered down.
I think maybe it would help, and I don't know if that's help is necessarily the right word, but I feel like there needs to be some type of disclaimer that comes with it, like inspired by, even though it's produced by them or something along those lines, so that people are not expecting what they got online.
So is Pop the Balloon strictly on Netflix now? We're not going to have the original with Arlette on YouTube?
That's a good question. I think that the one on YouTube will still be in existence.
Then that's what's going to be winning then. I'm sorry, people ain't going to tap into Netflix to watch your watered down version of Pop the Balloon. I'll be on YouTube.
All right, we'll have to see. So let's talk Wendy Williams. We know that the guardianship drama has been swirling for months now. We know that she began speaking out, giving interviews, starting with The Breakfast Club, TMZ, Don Lemon, on and on and on. And recently, April 8th, a journalist, that they were leaking information, and she criticized the entire family and told Wendy to her face, "You had a great career. You may have done a lot of things, but those days are over. You will never get your career back." Excuse me, Mr. Judge. That's rude, right? Who are you to say? But why is this coming up? Regardless, if Wendy thinks she's going to get her career back or not. The question is she fit to be able to care for herself in a different type of situation and not the restrictive conservatorship that she is currently under? That's what's at hand. I don't know why this seems so what is the word I'm looking for? It seems so angry, for lack of a better term, and I don't understand why on that side, if ultimately their goal is to make sure that Wendy is taken care of, she is, her money isn't spending away, and she is healthy. Why are you angry that she wants to do things that make her feel healthier, et cetera, et cetera? It's weird. Like, what is the distaste that they seem to have for the family and Wendy's freedom? It's kind of interesting when you really, really think about it. Okay, so this story is interesting. I'm assuming Bow Wow's doing a lot of interviews right now because the Millennium Tour is on, and he wants to make sure that you guys go and check it out. I actually just saw a video of Bow Wow in the club making some young ladies' dreams come true. Nothing too salacious. They were just dancing, backing that thing up, all of the things. And I'm sure 13-year-old them was like, I am living the dream. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you grow up, posters on the wall or whatever the situation was, and then you go to the club and you meet that individual and you have a good time. That's a good night, right? It's a good thing. Well, Bow Wow, he recently was talking to, I think was it Cam Newton or on the Art of Dialogue? I feel like it was Cam Newton's podcast. It was Cam Newton's, okay. And he had everybody kind of double taking, but not. I mean, this isn't the first time that he's been complimentary to this individual, but there are some things about their situation, the relationship, and the individual that, causes a lot of people to pause when the topic of her and her dealings comes up. So Bow Wow said that women could actually learn a lot from Corinne Steffens. If you're not sure who Corinne Steffens is, that is formerly known as Superhead. Remember, she wrote the book back in the mid-2000s, Confessions of a Video Vixen, where she was one of the first to name names and put people on blast for their behavior behind the scenes and some of her exploits as she attempted to come up and navigate in the entertainment industry, right? And she now goes by Elizabeth Overseen, by the way. And he said that Corinne gave him life skills. She taught him how to wash his clothes. He said he can't go into a store and look at the bottle of Downy or Snuggles or any of that without thinking of Corinne. There were some other things that he mentioned. He was like, people have jokes, people like to disassociate themselves or whatever. But Corinne, he said he'll never speak bad about her. He learned a lot from her and she held him down. Now, a lot of people have questioned at what age they enter their situation. We aren't really sure, but things were certainly different once again during that time, 20, 25 years ago. But he said that, he'll always have love for her. And I think in between their back and forth, Lil Wayne has said something similar and then gone back to it. We know that she took care, according to her, of Bobby Brown for a minute when he was through a low point. She said he was sleeping on her couch. Well, she didn't say it. She actually put out a video when she was trying to put him out. And this was like early social media things. I remember when I first joined Twitter, the reason why I joined Twitter, and I can tell you this was October of 2008, is that one of my friends called me and said, oh, you have to get on this thing called Twitter. Superhead is on there going off about, I will omit the NBA player's name, but she went to the hotel to go see him, and she said she was offended because he obviously wanted to hang out with Superhead, and she was coming through the door as Corinne. She felt that she had left that moniker behind, and he was being a tad disrespectful in his approach. And I remember sitting there watching this like, how is this happening? This is happening in real time. Is she serious right now? But again, this was like October 2008. And we know that she has since written several books. She's had some incidents as of late with a chef whose name I can't remember, where she got caught up with him. You know, Corinne Elizabeth, is an interesting figure to say the least. But I guess if you spend enough time studying men and their needs, you absolutely would know how to deliver them.
She was a lot of men's piece.
You mean, and by piece, you're not talking P-I-E-C-E, you're talking P-E-A-C-E.
Yeah.
Okay.
But hey, it's interchangeable. I mean, but I'm going to go with the P-E-A-C-E.
I mean, she gave them, you know, probably at least the fantasy or the appearance of, you know, come in, shut up, handle business, and probably not leave if you listen to some of the stories. But, you know, what some high value men, is that what we call them sometimes? Or men that consider their lifestyle high pressure, say that they need from a woman that they're dealing with, at least on occasion. Lucas Frank in the chat says, we call that snitching where I come from, talking about Corinne's book. I mean, it was, but at the same, so here's the thing. I have mixed emotions about Corinne Steffens. On one hand, it was very brave what she did, right? Writing that book and revealing things. Do I necessarily believe her stance where she says that she wanted to do it to help other women and to prevent them from going through this and all of these things? I don't think that's accurate. I think she felt, probably rightly so, that she had been cast aside by the industry, or at least these men that she had situations with, where she willingly, okay, she has maintained that in a great deal of her situations, I'm not going to say all because I don't know everything. And honestly, surprisingly, I've never read the book. So she willingly engaged and utilized her sexuality to get, you know, position herself in certain times and certain situations and things of that nature. But that does not mean that people enjoy being discarded, right? There's an old saying, nobody minds being used, they mind being discarded, right? So that may have been Corinne's case, but she figured out a way to get her star on. And if she had been a little more, maybe, let's say, grounded throughout the process, because she had some deals, there were some development deals for TV series and things of that nature. But, you know, she's an interesting character. And sometimes I guess things just didn't land the way that some may have hoped they could. So there's that, right? Shout out to Corinne. All right, look, coming up, really quickly though, not Bow Wow being a low-key Captain Saber. You know, shout out to Bow though. It's a lesson plan, right? Maybe that explains why there's so many young men in these cougar relationships currently. Jalen Green, Mellow Ball, there's a couple of more. List goes on and on and on. You know, Twitter had jokes, but it is a real conversation about sometimes the benefits of an older woman. There it is there. Shout out to Bow. As long as it's, you know, above the age limit, the age of consent. All right, look, coming up, Ryan Coogler has a new vampire flick that drops on April 18th. Stars Michael B. Jordan, along with Delroy Lindo, Omar Benson Miller, Jayme Lawson, Lily, Miles Caton, Jack O'Connell, and we're going to be talking to them. You're going to check out my interview with the cast from Sinners about this new vampire flick. Delroy Lindo gets all in on blending Black Southern Gothic energy with vampire lore, right? Omar Benson Miller talks about Ryan Coogler and his creative process and what it means as a grandson of a sharecropper to be involved in this. And Jayme Lawson talks a bit about, the bumps in the night that were actual bumps on the set. And then later, we have an interview with actress Tiffany Black. She is starring, as I mentioned, in the Lifetime movie that drops on Saturday, April 12th, Not My Family, the Monique Smith Story. Tiffany Black gets real about playing Monique Smith, the mother in this series. And she also talks about, she's an acting coach. So she was the one who coached SZA for one of them days. So we talk about that and a bunch of other things. So lock in. And guys, guess what? I'm now available 7 days a week here. So make sure that you check in on Saturdays at 1 p.m. on live right here on KBLA Talk 1580 with me. Stay tuned for those interviews.
Just because I let it slide, drowning all in my emotions, I let you slide in this ocean. I'm in love with you, can't stand. And I try to be strong, but how much can I put your words on your life this time? And I hope you're lying, 'cause no one can take it no more.
You're in the know with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. Black Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson says the city will fight President Trump's threat to cut federal funds for sanctuary cities. His team says the move is unconstitutional. Chicago stands to lose over $3.5 billion. Yahoo has removed its DEI pages, redirecting users to its leadership page instead. It's the latest company to pull public DEI content as Trump pushes back on such policies. Black New York City Mayor Eric Adams is heading to the Dominican Republic to support the community after a nightclub roof collapse killed 221 people and injured over 150. And Steve Soboroff has quit as Los Angeles, California's wildfire recovery chief, saying Black Mayor Karen Bass and her team shut him out of key planning. He told the LA Times no one had contacted him in over a month and suspects he was used as political cover for the wealthy Palisades area. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Tough in Tarzana with the right lane blocked on the 101 northbound before Reseda Boulevard due to a stall. Big delays out of Studio City getting away from Coldwater Canyon. Also, as you travel through Sylmar, stall on the 210 westbound at Maclay in the middle lanes. Delays all the way from Lowell Avenue. Long Beach, watch out here. We're going to look at the drive on the 710. This is making your way along that northbound side. We're seeing delays that are slowing in stretches from Del Amo Boulevard, and that takes you all the way to Firestone Boulevard.
It's time to bring people back into the hiring process. If posting jobs online and screening applicants is failing, turn to the experts. Express Employment Professionals. Go to expresspros.com to find the location near you. Express blends tech with local support. That's expresspros.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Interesting situation facing the Clippers heading into their final 2 games of the regular season. Do they rest Kawhi Leonard to save him for the playoffs, or do they keep him in the lineup? The Clippers need Leonard to help improve their playoff position. At the moment, the Clippers are tied with Denver for 4th place in the Western Conference. They can lock up the 4th spot with a win tonight at Sacramento and Sunday at Golden State. Losses in both games could drop the Clippers into the play-in round. Last year, Leonard missed the last 4 games of the Clippers' first-round series against Dallas when his right knee got sore. The Clippers lost the series in 6 games. A healthy Leonard is vital for the Clippers to make a deep run in the playoffs this year. Interesting decision for Coach Ty Lue and the Clippers medical staff. Keep your fingers crossed that Leonard's knee does not act up again. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
At Exquisite Family Mortuary, We know how overwhelming it can be planning a meaningful farewell for your loved one. Secure your peace of mind by calling Charlotte White at 323-577-5562. That's Charlotte White at 323-577-5562. From traditional funeral services to memorials to direct cremation pre-needs and more. Call Charlotte White at Exquisite Family Mortuary for Southern hospitality in Southern California. That's Charlotte White at 323-577-5562. Exquisite Family Mortuary is located nearby in Inglewood, California. Exquisite Family Mortuary, where your loved one becomes our loved one.
Why'd I go to the doctor? One day at the firehouse, I was so lightheaded I could barely stand. Even my crew noticed. Getting checked out was the right call. Turns out I have atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of stroke about 5 times.
Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if it's AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a doctor.
I'm so glad I did.
Visit NoTimeToWait.com, sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
Johns Hopkins University has found that just mild hearing loss doubles your risk of dementia, so hearing loss isn't something to ignore.
But hearing aids are so expensive and ugly.
Not anymore. Meet Audion Hearing. You can get nearly invisible hearing aids without a prescription starting at $98 a pair, and they're ready to use right out of the box. Rated the best hearing aids of 2025 by Forbes Health, and with over 1 million customers, Audion is easy to trust. Visit audionhearing.com. That's AUDIEN hearing.com.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you, when we fight, we win. The Youth Justice Coalition is challenging America's addiction to incarceration and discrimination. YJC works to dismantle policies leading to mass incarceration, law enforcement violence, and the school-to-prison pipeline. Their approach, transformative justice, community intervention, free LA high school, legal defense, and system monitoring. YJC promotes safety without relying on prisons. Their goal, prevent system contact and help people exit the system through direct action, advocacy, and education. Want to get involved or need help? Call 323-235-4243. That's 323-235-4243. Join YJC in creating change. When we fight, we win. KBLA Talk 1580, your voice for justice. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
So starting off, this isn't just a horror film, it's layered, and each of your characters represent something from the past and the time period of what was going on in Mississippi during that time, as well as their key points to the story. So could each of you kind of give me your first impressions of the character when you read the script?
I had very little. I actually had no idea about the Chinese American community in the Mississippi Delta during that time, but I learned that they were an integral part of history during a very segregated world, and it was really fascinating to learn about not only the way they speak, but the way they were fully immersed in the culture. If you closed your eyes and you just listened to the way they spoke, you would have never imagined them to look like me. And I love that Ryan was able to tell their story in this film.
I'm the grandson of sharecroppers from Mississippi, and so for me, it hit home in a very special way with stories that I've heard from the time I was a child. And I just wanted to give you kudos and thank you for recognizing that it's much more than a horror film.
I'm a granddaughter from sharecropper in Mississippi, so right there. And Delroy, what about you? Because your character, you know, the music birthed there, and there's so many layers within this. So could you speak to that, please?
Look at that. I mean, you as an audience, you're getting it. You're understanding. It's resonating for you in the ways that the filmmaker intended, and for us as being part of that story. But you know what? When you ask the question, I've never thought about this before. Swear to God, when you asked the question, what came into my brain was Delta Slim is a magic man. I'm a magic man whose magic has maybe been soiled, sullied, has been dragged through the mud and the dirt, but is still there, still making the music, still surviving, and with my survival has been the history that's connected to that survival. So, but my response when you asked that question was, Magic Man. And I didn't even think in those terms when we were making the work, but that's what I thought when you asked that question.
I love that. So in telling this story and going through, there's a lot of, with the horror genre, scars, literal scares, physical scares. For you, what was the moment that you were like, yeah, this is going to get the audience in a special kind of way?
What I hoped from the very, excuse me, I should sit up straight. I can hear my mama say, sit up straight. Yo, on camera, sit your ass.
Speaking of the magic.
Talking about you a magic man.
Answer the woman's question.
I'm sorry.
That's what she said to you. That's great.
From the very first time I read this script, I apologize, I'm so sorry. From the very first time I read this script, I was aware of the larger, the magnitude of this story and the fact that Ryan is using a particular genre to tell a much larger story. And I got to tell you, from the time that I read it, that's what resonated for me. And that's what excited me about being part of this journey. Yes, the genre is there, and the genre in and of itself is a powerful genre. But for me, it was always about the much larger story that resonated for me.
This isn't your typical vampire film, from the setting to the beauty of the shooting of it and the time period. So starting with you, Miles, when you initially read the script, what were your first thoughts?
Oh, man. So when I first got the script, I got a couple sides, maybe a scene of him just playing the guitar. So I was like, yeah, this is really interesting. And then once I got the whole script, I was like, wow. Wow, man, Ryan's really a genius, man. For him to be able to bring all of these elements together and make one piece, I was really, really surprised, and I couldn't wait to start.
So for you, Jack and Jayme, this is layered with psychological tension, horror, the real life horrors of the time. What was the moment when filming that something got under your skin, or you really felt the scare of the script?
Chiggers.
I was about to say the same thing.
Oh, man.
Literally.
Night shoots.
Night shoots.
Deep Louisiana.
Yeah. The mud, the
alligators.
torrential. Yeah.
The heat.
Yeah.
I got under my skin.
Yeah. Actual bites. Waking up the next day and seeing just your leg tore up.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So dealing with that as actors, the blood, the physicality in horror, plus the script, what do you find that kind of gives you more of a jump scare? The actual physicality of it, or the moments within the script?
Ooh. I had a legit jump scare the first time I saw you in the full get-up. Because those fingers are something serious. And then I got to peek in on when you're doing the with Lola and Peter in their house, right? And you see him, and you just see all the blood just down here, and he's doing this smile, and I said, I'm gone, okay? This is the end of the day for me. So, yeah, that was pretty early on, yeah?
Early days,
Yeah.
that was, yeah. No, I was cutting an alarming figure.
Yeah.
Right, a lot, and
And then you just catch him on the side with the fingers smoking a cigarette, and you're just like, oh, okay.
it was a cigarette.
So one thing that the audience can take away from this situation, we'll call it, because there's so many different layers and experiences that we go through it. What do you think it would be? And that is for whoever wants to answer.
Definitely, I would say to beware of the ones around you. and also to be protective over your family, for sure.
I just want audiences to have a good time.
Yeah.
I really want people to have a good time, to go with your family, your peoples, come in that theater and just like go on the ride that it is. Because you're going to feel a whole lot of things like that, back to back. And I think it's rare. We don't always we're not blessed to have movies that make us feel those emotions all the time. So when you get one like that, where you can just let go and say, all right, take me on this journey, dive in, lean into it.
I think because it is so genre defying. There's so many elements to this story that are really, really rich. It's a very hard one to encapsulate and try and sell. But I think the one major takeaway is Ryan Coogler is a genius.
That part.
He's a visionary, an amazing filmmaker, and what an experience getting to work with him, man.
Your ride with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
At Providence, health equity is the foundation of our community health initiatives, ensuring care reaches those who need it most. Heart disease is the leading cause of death in America. African Americans face a higher risk of life-threatening issues like hypertension, the #1 cause of stroke. 55% of Black adults have high blood pressure. The good news is 80% of heart disease is preventable with healthy lifestyle changes and patient-centered care provided by the Providence Heart and Vascular Institute. From routine screenings to advanced procedures, Providence provides comprehensive care for the heart conditions that overly impact our community by ensuring patients receive treatments tailored to their needs. Let's stop the trend of being 30% more likely to die from heart-related problems. Take charge of your heart health with world-class cardiologists who deliver the compassionate care you deserve. Visit providence.org/SoCalHeart. That's providence.org/SoCalHeart to request an appointment.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up.
Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
Need a ride? Ride in style. Choose K-Meets, luxury transportation that puts you first. K-Meets has you covered with our 6-seater Sprinter limo that's perfect for couples, proms, weddings, and events. Whether it's a night out, special event, or just because, our Elite Sprinter offers the perfect blend of luxury and intimacy without the crowd. Looking for SUV? K-Meets has that too. Elite SUV service available for your next ride. Book at KMEBlack.com or call today 424-500-4751. Again, KMEBlack.com 424-500-4751.
Now back to more entertainment news with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
So hi, Tiffany. It is great to meet you. So excited to speak with you today. So starting off as a Black woman who is a storyteller and dedicated to truth both on and off the screen and healing, when you got the script and you read Elizabeth's story, what were your thoughts coming into it?
My thoughts were pretty clear, and thank you for having me. I knew this was going to be good because you be asking the good questions. You ask the hard questions. Yeah, I did some research on you. It was like, who can and trust for season 3? I was like, okay, let's get into the meat and potatoes.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, of course. When I read this script, I immediately thought this is the character in the story that I would want to play. Not because, she was, the good one, because she's clearly not making the best decisions in the story, but because I gravitate towards the characters that I find are interesting and the ones that are usually not the ones that we focus on the most. I feel like most of the time in stories, the protagonist is doing something that the audience can get behind. I love stories where the protagonist is also the antagonist. And I feel like I gravitated towards Elizabeth because I wanted to make her the center. I wanted to know what would cause somebody to make the choices that she's made. Like, there's got to be more to the story. So I was just automatically filling in the blanks.
So on those lines, your portrayal of her was intense, raw. You know, we go through a lot of things, sometimes hard to watch. So how do you prepare to emotionally step into a role like this? And then how do you detach from it once you're in it?
That's good. So stepping in, I'm looking for her humanity. I'm looking for ways to balance what the audience can see and maybe what they don't. I'm looking for extra moments where I can like fill in the blanks and, you know, those small moments before they call action where I might be able to sneak in a couple more things like a laugh or something that she might think is funny. Because if I know what they want to show, Tiffany, I'm trying to add, you know, balance and some other layers. So I feel like that's first. How do I detach? I wish I could say that I was one of those people that can walk away from set and feel like, you know, I can leave the work there, but that's just not true. If you're showing up to set prepared and, you know, completely off book and ready to go, then you've considered this a lot. So I work while I'm there, but I also come home and I work and I think about, you know, what am I filming the next day? Is there something that I missed? Is there something that I can rework? So I absolutely take, you know, the work home with me, but as far as like letting it bleed into my life, I just don't have these same thoughts. I'm not thinking like this person. This is not my experience. I'm not a mother yet. And I recognize that this person has a different life, but I try to lend myself to what might make them think the way that they do.
So Elizabeth, like you mentioned, isn't your typical, you know, villain or antagonist, right? There's a lot of secrets and trauma there that are attached to it. So did you have any conversations with the director or with anyone in the sense of, you know, developing out this character?
Absolutely. So on my first day of filming, it was an absolute treat. The casting director came into my trailer and she had the real Monique with her. She also had the writer of the movie, Sylvia. And then the director, Talia, came in also. And so I'm like, oh, this is the conversation I want to have. And I was asking her, you know, just background information, like, could she not have her own kids? And I told them that I had been working on this Baltimore accent. Like, I had been just steeped in Baltimore culture, listening to Jess Hilarious, while, you know, just listening to them and trying to nail this thing. And what she told me was something I couldn't have not known if I didn't speak with her. But she was like, what I loved about your audition tape is that you sounded like her. And it was triggering for me. Like, you sounded so much like her that it took me back to my childhood. And she was like, it's because you sounded Southern. So the story takes place in Baltimore, but Elizabeth is from North Carolina. I would not have known that. I'm from the South. I'm from St. Pete, Florida, where they make it rain in the club. So I'm from the South. All of my roots are in the South, like Alabama, Georgia area. So when I think about, you know, Black motherhood as I experienced it as a child, it's coming from a Southern woman. So that's where my default is. And that's what I gave on the tape. And she said that not only did it resonate, but it was triggering. And that's when they knew that the part was for me.
So as an acting coach, were there any moments that you had to coach yourself through a scene or, you know, something that was emotional or a breakthrough?
You know what? Being an acting coach has made me a better actress. It gives you the opportunity to see the work from the outside. And I started to realize that through my weekly class, sometimes I go to set with different artists and I also have a weekly acting class. I have started, and I particularly did that with this project, I started coaching my students on my material. And I get to hear the words through them because I've trained them to think like me as an artist. So I get to hear it back to me and make tweaks with them that I make tweaks with myself. It's my way of coaching myself, so to speak. I also coach with other teachers. Tasha Smith has been my coach for a very long time. But sometimes I coach with other, instructors from TSA as well. But I also like to hear it on my students and tweak it that way. So it all does start to run together in a way that I didn't expect. But I always work with somebody on every part, every role.
So knowing that Monique's story is a real story, these are real people involved in this, does it change how you approach your work? And is that something that you talk to your students about, balancing when it is a real life person in the work versus a character, even though, it's still a character?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I love real stories. So if there was something that I could go and look at and like hear her voice and take from her mannerisms, I would have loved to do that. I didn't have that opportunity. So what I would do is knowing that she's a real person, I try to be respectful. Like I know that their family is going to see this and I want to give her the voice that she doesn't get to have. Monique is still here. Monique gets to tell her story. Elizabeth doesn't. And I just by being a human, I know that there are parts of the story that we don't know. There are things that happened to her that may have been some justification or at least an explanation for the decisions that she made. And I try to consider that. So if there is something from, footage or a real life that I can pull from, I will absolutely honor that. But I didn't have that opportunity. So I just try to remember that this is a real woman navigating life as it comes to her. And the same way we're going to make missteps in this life, she did too. And I try to honor that and, make it something that her family can still be proud of.
So speaking of family, you mentioned your Southern roots and that Elizabeth also has those roots. Hearing this story, working through it, looking at Monique and that she didn't have that connection to her past, did it make you consider anything in your lineage or have any reflections about what it means to connect with family and how that transmutes out?
I think it made me realize how much I've taken for granted for having such a close family. I've always known who my mother is. I'm wearing her face. My mama couldn't deny me if she wanted to. I look exactly like her. And I've always known who my father was. I grew up sharing bathwater with my cousins. Me and my sisters are very close. And I think when you have always had it, you think that everybody has it. And this story just not only just reminded me of that's not everybody's experience, but the fact that she worked her entire life looking for answers and explanations. If I have a question about, my health or something, I can call my mom. I can call my aunties. I can figure it out. But it does give me it lets me know that's a privilege to be able to know who your family is and to be able to reach them whenever you want to.
Absolutely. So along those lines, Lifetime has become a place that is centering Black women in their stories. How does it feel to be a part of a story on a network that is making a choice, especially in our current environment, to showcase that?
I love that. I love the question. I love bringing light to this. Lifetime television for women is something I used to watch every Sunday with my mother. It was her downtime. And even if I didn't always want to watch it, we was going to watch it because that was her, her reality TV. That was her passive watching. And the movies were good. I've always known that I wanted to be an actress. So I feel like this is not just a full circle moment for me, but this is a full circle moment for all of the women in my family, because we've been watching Lifetime for years, but for them to now be intentionally shedding light and investing in our stories is fulfilling. And to then on top of that, for me to be a part of it, because I was going to watch anyway, but for me to be in it, my mom and my aunties are through the roof about this project.
I love that. So in wrapping up, last question, you recently worked with SZA for one of them days. So reflecting on your work, both in front of and behind the camera, what does it mean to be able to showcase the full range of what Black women can do in this industry?
That experience was so great. And not just because she's SZA, but because I saw somebody who didn't need to be as serious about doing such a great job, show up every day. She was whole. She was on time. She was excited to do that work, and to be able to share in that and share in seeing her know that she did a great job, and for it to now be number one on Netflix, it was number one in the theaters, and to see that hard work pay off for her. I'm so grateful to have been a part of it. And that experience also taught me how much value I can bring to a project. I was able to work just very closely with that director, and his name is Lawrence. He was so fantastic in his preparation, and it gave me the confidence to know that when it's time for me to direct my first project, I'm gonna know what I'm doing. I'm gonna be able to get the performances that I want to get out of my cast. So I'm really looking forward to that. I have something that's in the works, something I've been writing for the last 5 years, really, really inspired by my nieces. So I'm looking to get that into production, and I'm excited about that next step.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. Black Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson says the city will fight President Trump's threat to cut federal funds for sanctuary cities. His team says the move is unconstitutional. Chicago stands to lose over $3.5 billion. Yahoo has removed its DEI pages, redirecting users to its leadership pages